The day has finally come. Former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould has the all clear and will testify in front of the House of Parliament's Justice Committee this afternoon at 3:15 Eastern regarding her involvement in the SNC-Lavalin affair. Joining us with more is the Globe and Mail's Stephen Chase. Stephen, thanks so much for being here. So in order for Wilson-Raybould to testify, the government had to waive its solicitor-client privilege. Do we know what went into their decision to do that?
They had to weigh, I guess, the possibility that she says something embarrassing to about them against their need or their interest to sort of lance the boil to get this aired and try to move on. I mean, it's been 3 weeks now that their agenda and sort of federal politics has been really sort of dominated by this file. So that's what they had to weigh in making that decision.
There are members of the committee who've been pushing for this hearing for weeks now. Committee Chair Anthony Housefather said, quote, "We're pleased to hear her take on things. I think it's important to the members of the committee to do our work." So what kind of questions do you think the committee is going to be asking of the former Attorney General this afternoon?
Well, again, we're expecting she's going to detail the pressure she faced. And again, this is an extraordinary event where you have essentially a former Attorney General testifying about the pressure her own government placed on her. So they're going to try to parse that. And of course, you've already seen from the Privy Council Clerk Michael Warnick last week suggesting that if there was any pressure, it was not undue pressure. So there's going to be a lot of parsing going on about what exactly constitutes pressure. And I'm assuming that the Liberals especially will be trying to make a distinction.
Now that privilege has been lifted, could we see Wilson-Raybould testify elsewhere besides in front of the Justice Committee? I know that we had some members of the Conservative caucus on our show last week and the week before saying that there are other avenues that they would like to explore, perhaps a Senate hearing. Could we see Wilson-Raybould perhaps testifying before the Senate at some point?
I guess that would depend on what the Independent Senate Group thinks. The Independent Senate Group, of course, which has shown a record of voting with the government, even though they are labeled independent, would have to decide, would have to agree on that, given that they sort of comprise the bulk of the committees. That's a good question, though.
You know, a lot of people are watching this and they're saying, you know, it took a long time for the government to allow Ms. Wilson-Raybould to speak, and they're wondering, was it simply a matter of them getting their house in order, discussing things amongst themselves to decide, all right, at this point, we're now prepared to weather whatever storm comes from this testimony? A lot of Canadians are wondering, is this a tempest in a teapot? She's gonna talk at the committee and nothing really will come of it because the government already knows what's coming.
I think the government has a good idea what's coming because she spoke to them in cabinet and she also spoke to caucus. So yes, they probably anticipated it. We've obviously seen several. We saw the Principal Secretary Gerald Butts resign, and we saw an anticipatory testimony last week from Michael Warnick, the Privy Council clerk in the Privy Council, which basically is the sort of right arm of the Prime Minister's office. So yes, they probably have a good idea. They're going to have to, I guess, explain to Canadians and defend their role in this. And again, it's anybody's guess how long this is going to go on for.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know it's a testimony that a lot of Canadians are eager to hear. We appreciate your time this morning.
You're welcome.